One of the things we have going on Fridays is, of course, Holier Than Thou. We've got young Ben into the studio, and it's really Ben's heavy a crack at those who didn't cooperate with us during the week. It's our way of wagging our finger at people, isn't it, Ben?
It is indeed, yep.
All right, have we got the music? Take it away.
Okay, yeah, we'll play that at the start now. Thanks, Sean. It is Friday, the first Friday of February, in fact, and really the last weekend before we properly get going as a country. We come into the new year, nobody really bothers doing anything until about halfway through January, do they? And then we've got the anniversary weekends to extend the festival of procrastination, and finally everyone that's missed out on having a moan does one at Waitangi, and then we finally crack into it. And crack into it we shall, because it's time for Holier Than Thou, the weekly segment here at the platform, where we take a look at all the people, groups or organisations that have flaunted their apathy towards the public throughout the week in relation to issues we've asked them on. Real quick, if you are a public official, bureaucrat, local or central government representative or spokesperson for a large corporation, business or organisation, and wish to avoid representation on this list, heed now that eligibility for it is based largely on the importance of the issue you've refused to front on, how many people are impacted by said issue and therefore your lack of engagement on it, and maybe a little bit how rude or annoying you were to deal with throughout the process of lodging a media inquiry. Kicking off the list this week is a minister under this coalition government that has repeatedly refused to front on the following issue. And this needs some context. What is the future or fate of public state broadcasters in this country? This is, in my view, an underrated and infinitely significant topic that receives nowhere near enough attention by government and media alike. Television New Zealand and Radio New Zealand, the country's two state broadcasters, are sinking. They're imploding fast and survive only by the good grace of the taxpayer, who at the instruction of the government of the day continue to bail them out. RNZ has no advertisement revenue and frankly produces less and less content that New Zealanders find engaging or worth listening to. It's not necessarily their fault. The media environment is changing. The content that consumers enjoy and rely on is changing at almost the same rate that the mechanisms through which it's delivered to them is changing. It's all changing, and the cold hard truth is that Television New Zealand and RNZ are not positioned at all well to evolve along with it. Now, of course, we've always given our tax money to both these companies, and that's how publicly funded media works. But the thing is, that's all well and good when they were as heavily relied on for information as they have hitherto been, and moreover, when they were producing content that the majority viewed as reliable and trustworthy. But with media companies like TVNZ and RNZ fending off severe financial ailments and dealing with declining public trust, the question surfaces, do we keep funding these entities with our money, or does something need to change? Well, the question that's the question we've wanted to ask the new Broadcasting Minister or Media and Communications Minister, Melissa Lee, for quite some time. On at least 3 occasions, I've asked the Minister on the show to discuss the future of TVNZ and RNZ, and her office has declined every single time. Well, I'll tell you, this issue's not going anywhere, and neither entity has any chance at all of miraculously recovering from their financial situations anytime soon, which means they will continue to ask the government for boatloads of money, and Melissa Lee will have a decision to make quite soon. Given the importance of media independence and quality to the functionality of our democracy, I would argue it is somewhat in the public interest to know at least what that decision might look like. I understand ministers are busy, but Minister Lee has turned this topic down one too many times, and it's starting to think that something else is at play here. So onto the list she goes. Moving on to something no less important, but perhaps more imminent, Wellington water issues. I've been pretty close to this story and its implications, and the sheer scale of incompetence and bureaucracy around this issue has been absolutely staggering. This week, in the week since I last had a rave about this, while 45% of our drinking water continues to bubble up out of the ground, local government Minister Simeon Brown met with local mayors Tory Whānau and Wayne Guppy in an attempt to get to the bottom of who asked who for information from who, and why that information took longer than forecast to reach his desk. I'd like to coin a new term for that: toxic bureaucracy. Have you ever heard of anything more toxically bureaucratic than a meeting about an email about some information? Astonishing. Meanwhile, Wellington Water apparently still lacks the funding to get the work done on our infrastructure, and Wellington City Council refuses to pump the brakes on huge funding for cycle lanes placed in increasingly infuriating locations. Tory Whānau, the mayor of this great city, remains as unapologetically uncommunicative as she has ever been with us, and has turned down, or actually simply ignored, another invitation that I sent to her to come onto the show this week. So it's about time the mayor made the list once again. Those are the 2 for this week. Slightly light. Josh, if I could have that theme song one more time to close it off. That is Holier Than Thou for this week.